Congressman Tim Burlison has taken action to have Pentagon videos and photos of UFOs declassified and released to the public. There are hopes that the upcoming Trump presidential library has an entire floor dedicated to UFO files Trump is going to release soon. The Japanese parliament is following the US lead in setting up a bipartisan parliamentary UFO caucus. Matt Gaetz discusses a US Army soldier briefing him on a hybrid breeding program. Congressman Tim Burchett says the official UFO briefings he has received on UFOs concern issues that would keep the public up at night. These stories and more on Exopolitics Today, the Week in Review.
You are listening to Exopolitics Today with Dr. Michael Salla, your source for the uncensored truth regarding the human, extraterrestrial, global, and political agenda. Click the like button and subscribe to this channel. And now, here's Dr. Michael Salla.
Welcome to the April 4 edition of Exopolitics Today, the Week in Review. Definitely, it's been a big week. There have been a lot of developments, and the Iran war certainly is something that's generating a lot of speculation, and also the predictions that Donald Trump is going to disclose something soon concerning UFOs continues to grow. So let's take a look at the top stories for the last week that I think are worth covering. So I want to begin with this particular interview that Representative Eric Burlison says that he was given a list of UFO files, or that he gave a list of UFO files to Tulsi Gabbard, the Office of Director of National Intelligence, and the Department of Defense for declassification to the public. So let's listen to what Congressman Burlison has to say about the UFO files he handed over.
You know, I don't know why they've been keeping it a secret for so long. There are a lot of these videos that they're keeping classified have been captured on technology that we don't want our adversaries to know that we have the ability to capture. So in other words, the cameras themselves are highly classified, and because of that, we don't want to release the footage. Now, that doesn't mean that Congress shouldn't be able to see this, which is why I've been, we have a lot of whistleblowers that have come forward. I've been given a list of about 2 to 3 dozen of these files and have submitted a request, an official request to Tulsi Gabbard's office, to the Department of War, to, the Secretary of State and the Department of Energy to be able to see these files. And I've got a contact with other whistleblowers. There's more files to come. So we've got people on the inside watching to see, based on our request, if these files have been moved, if they are deleted or changed in any way to avoid that. So we're on the trail, and hopefully Congress can be able to at least get our eyes on these videos and give some insights to the American people.
Right. So what we have here is Congressman Burlison talking about taking action to have videos and photos of UFOs declassified and released to the public. And so what we've got to keep in mind here is that while such a release will undoubtedly advance interest in the UFO topic and bring about greater transparency, we've got to keep in mind at the end of the day that what we really need are the official reports or evaluations of who the craft belonged to. And that kind of like a deeper layer of revelation or declassification is something that I don't see the Pentagon releasing that soon. And certainly the members of Congress aren't talking about those reports and evaluations of what the UFOs are, because just because we have the Navy or the Air Force or Space Force releasing files of some craft orbiting the Earth, I mean, that's well and good, but if the Pentagon has written a evaluation, a report, and knows who that craft belongs to and what it's doing there, I mean, that's really what we want. So, this is something that needs to be asked for. And at the moment, members of Congress are really just asking for that very superficial level of disclosure, which is, give us the videos, the camera shots of the UFOs. I mean, we want those, and that opens the door, but we need to go in further and see what reports have been written by the intelligence community, the military, about those UFOs. All right, well, here's something that is very interesting, very concerning. Well, actually, in a way, it just shows how the UFO issue is covered up. And now it seems that rather than talking about UFOs overflying, say, military facilities, now they're talking about drones. And that seems to be a deliberate way in which they can kind of like create obfuscation. So people don't ask any further questions. They just think, well, it's a drone. Someone's flying a drone over a major military base, and they got away with it, and no big deal. But really, what we're talking about are UFOs. So in this case, the military was talking about drone swarms flying over this major military base that is Barksdale Air Force Base, which is the home of B-52 nuclear-equipped bombers, and that while these fleets or these drone swarms were flying over Barksdale, the bombers couldn't fly. And so they tried to bring down these drone swarms, but they were too sophisticated for the electronic defenses of the base and any other defenses they had here. And there was speculation that the drones were of Chinese origin. And I think this is part of the problem, that when you change the language, you're not talking about UFOs anymore, you're talking about drones. People automatically think drones, oh, okay, well, that's kind of like Chinese or Russian or Iranian. But if you're thinking UFOs, then we're thinking, well, extraterrestrial. So just by changing the language and saying, well, there are these swarms of drones overflying Barksdale that are leading to the disruption in flights of these nuclear-armed B-52 bombers, that it's not something to pay attention to because they're drones belonging to some kind of adversary or some unknown actor in the US. But if we're talking UFOs, the language is important. We're talking UFOs, then it raises the possibility that, well, the extraterrestrials are doing it because they want to make a statement concerning the possible use of nuclear weapons during a time of major war. And right now we're witnessing a major war happening in the Middle East between the US, Israel, and Iran. Right. Well, here's an interview I did with Gene Decode, who really has some very interesting information to share. So, Gene is a veteran of the US Navy, 21 years, worked with US Special Forces. So he has a lot of contacts, a lot of insiders, a lot of experience in understanding how Special Forces operate, and an extensive understanding of deep underground military bases, what's in these bases. And so he shared his latest information about these bases and these tunnel networks in Iran, and that in fact is the real purpose for the Iran war, that the actual war that we're witnessing is really a smokescreen to allow Special Forces people to be able to penetrate or access the tunnel network and to liberate the tunnels, liberate the bases, or destroy anything that needs to be destroyed. And Gene has long said that these tunnels are located at a deep, at a depth of, say, 10 kilometers, which is far deeper than many people think conventional tunnels can be built to. But apparently this ancient tunnel network is as deep as 10 kilometers, and it contains ancient technology, giants, portals, and so forth. And this is where these battles are being fought for control over them. And according to Gene, the seismic activity that the US Geological Survey has provided of tunnels all over the world is what is indicative of these battles. So he thinks these battles may involve the use of tactical nuclear weapons, and that where these weapons are deployed, there's seismic, or it registers as seismic activity. Now, people have pointed out that the depth of 10 kilometers is what the US Geological Survey gives as an approximation when it cannot provide a more accurate assessment of the depth of an earthquake, seismic activity, that they can approximate the depth up until around 10 kilometers, but then at that depth, they're not very precise, so they just use 10 kilometers as the approximate level. And of course, Gene is saying that, well, when you look at all of these, all this seismic activity occurring at 10 kilometers, that's indicative of battles being fought in this ancient tunnel network, which exists at 10 kilometers in depth. So, what we need to kind of like really acknowledge here is that the US Geological Survey is part of the official government apparatus that is keeping secret the existence of all sorts of phenomenon. So if there is a kind of like a depth of an ancient tunnel system of around 10 kilometers, maybe they would want to hide seismic activity or battles or anything occurring there by saying that, we are giving approximate depths for any seismic activity. It could be happening at 15 or 20 kilometers or 8 kilometers. So 10 is only an approximation. Well, the fact that they chose 10 is very interesting, given what Gene and others have said, that the ancient tunnel network can be found going all over the planet, and it's at around 10 kilometers in depth. Well, here is something that President Trump's son, Eric Trump, just released concerning the construction or future construction of the future presidential library for Donald Trump. So let's just play that for you. I'm going to mute it just because YouTube does demonetize videos when we play music. But here you have a mock-up of what the future Trump presidential tower would look like. It's going to be a skyscraper with an American flag and Trump's name at the very top, and it's going to tower over downtown Miami and adjoining the waterfront there. So, this is very kind of interesting. I mean, he's obviously been able to get commitments of large amounts of funds from his various friends, and they will be ensuring that this presidential tower is state-of-the-art, has all the latest fancy technologies, even mock-ups of Air Force One in it, ballrooms, reception areas, and so forth. Now, the thing that I wanted to kind of like emphasize here was that one of the policies Donald Trump apparently is about to launch is declassification of the UFO files. He's instructed the Pentagon to declassify them. So if he does do that, if he goes ahead on that, then hopefully we'll have an entire floor of the Trump Presidential Library dedicated to UFO files that Trump is about to release, and that will really change the world, or hopefully will change the world. Here is something from the Japanese concerning a UFO caucus that has been established there in Japan. And so this Japanese parliamentary UFO caucus is proposing declassification or release of files concerning UFOs that are modeled on what the US has done and that what President Trump has done. So what we are witnessing in the United States in terms of the US Congress having committee meetings and creating a UFO caucus for the release of UFO files and their declassification. That is something that other countries are watching closely. They're watching closely also statements by President Trump himself, and that's inspiring other countries to go ahead to establish their own UFO caucuses and to pressure their national security establishments to release UFO files. So we are witnessing this happening in Japan now as well. And one of the things that is well worth keeping in mind is that there have been rumors, claims by various whistleblowers or insiders that Japan, during World War II, also established a secret space program, because it's worth remembering that after the end of World War II, while the Nazi Germany surrendered in May of 1945 and relocated to Antarctica and continued their activities down there, Japan continued to fought until August. So they fought another 3 months down there, or in the Northern Hemisphere. And they also cooperated closely with the Germans in Antarctica in developing a secret space program. So the Japanese, not only do they have reams of UFO files that have been classified by their national security establishment, there is also files concerning the Japanese secret space program that worked with the German Dark Fleet. So what is known about that and how much will be released about that, that I think is something we should continue to keep in mind. All right, so here is something that really has gone viral, and that is Matt Gaetz, former congressman, did an interview with Benny Johnson, I believe, where he talked about a secret hybrid breeding program overseen by the US Army, where humans and extraterrestrials were creating a hybrid race. So let's listen to Matt Gaetz talk about this in this interview.
I mean, I had someone come and brief me who was in a military uniform, worked for the United States Army, that was briefing me on the locations of hybrid breeding programs where captured aliens were breeding with humans to create some hybrid race that could engage in intergalactic communication. An actual uniformed member of the United States Army briefed me on that.
Non-human biologics, interracial alien mating? What the F is going on? Look, wait a second. You had whistleblowers tell you this kind of thing? Can you please unpack that?
Yeah, I had a guy who was uniformed. He was a senior enlisted with the United States Army. Came into my office in Crestview, Florida, in a non-classified setting. I had members of my staff there, and what they explained is that the military ran a very secret program where aliens that were living were in forced breeding programs with humans that had been abducted from war zones and from even the caravans of migrants. Now, again, I didn't verify this, but what the whistleblower was telling me is that there were like between 6 and 12 locations around the country where this happened. And what he wanted was a group, members of Congress, to all show up at the same time at all of these different locations so that any of those activities could not be moved. And of course, it's a physical impossibility to get members of Congress to simultaneously show up at like 8 locations at one time. And so that never occurred.
All right, so there you have Congressman Matt Gaetz talking about a Army whistleblower approaching him and sharing information on an alien hybrid program. Now, Matt Gaetz mentioned that his office is in Crestview, Florida, and that is the same area where JP served, and he was actually serving at the time at Eglin Air Force Base, which is in that Crestview area. So it's very possible that this Army insider came from Eglin Air Force Base, where you have the US Army's 7th Special Forces Group located, the very same group where JP served for his 4 years while in the US Army. And it's possible that JP thinks that it could be one of the people he served with, and he has someone in mind, but he hasn't yet talked about who that person is, just because of the need for anonymity at this stage. So this is very similar. This kind of alien breeding program is similar to what Dan Sherman revealed about Project Preserve Destiny, which was a hybrid program where aliens or gray extraterrestrials would genetically manipulate women that were about to give birth. They would genetically manipulate the fetus to change that so that the child, when it's born, has certain genetics that have been changed or put in by gray extraterrestrials, and that this was creating a hybrid race. And so Project Preserve Destiny that Dan Sherman talked about is one example of this kind of hybrid program. Now, what Matt Gaetz was revealing may well be a completely separate program involving not gray extraterrestrials who can't breed with human women as we know it, but actually human-looking extraterrestrials who can breed in the kind of like traditional way with human women. Now, this is where you have Congressman Tim Burchett kind of like coming into the picture. He was asked a question about what Matt Gaetz said about the hybrid alien program, and he went on to say that, yeah, that this was actually accurate, that he also was familiar with this information, and he had this to say about the alien. Well, this to say about the kind of like official briefings he's received covering issues like what Matt Gaetz was talking about regarding the hybrid alien program. So let's listen to Tim Burchett, what he has to say.
We need to, but you know, it's never going to get. Unfortunately, it just keeps getting covered up, and the people that know are dying or disappearing, as the case may be.
Well, I don't have the tinfoil hat on just yet, Congressman, but I'm wondering, you know, kind of how you react to that, because you are connected. You're on the UFO subcommittee. I mean, I'm just wondering what you make of that. Have you heard anything like that?
Well, I'm still a member of Congress, so I can't really comment too much on what Matt said. But I will say this.
Wait, seriously? Are you being serious, or is that tongue in cheek?
I'm being 100% serious. Okay. I've been 100% serious. I've been briefed by just about every alphabet agency there is. And I'll just tell you this, if they would release the things that I've seen, you would stay up, you'd be up at night worrying about or thinking about this stuff. We just need to disclose it all. I'm sick of it. Well, I was briefed. I'll just tell you this. I was briefed last week on an issue, or excuse me, 2 weeks ago. And it would have set the earth off. This country would have come unglued, I think, if they would have heard all that I heard. They would demand answers. And we need to, but you know, it's never going to get. Unfortunately, it just keeps getting covered up, and the people that know are dying or disappearing, as the case may be.
All right, so there you have Congressman Tim Burchett really reinforcing what Matt Gaetz said about the kind of briefings members of Congress are receiving concerning information such as what Gaetz was told by this whistleblower about alien hybrid programs that would keep people up at night. So this is something that really has gone viral. Lots of people are talking about it. You've got members of Congress saying all of this stuff is real. So I think that what we're seeing here is an acceleration in terms of the kind of level of information now that is being exposed and that members of Congress are sharing with the general public. Okay, so here is another development, and this concerns Bob Lazar, who just did an interview again. I think this is his second interview with Joe Rogan. And in here, he talked about something that hasn't been revealed before. He didn't talk about it in previous interviews. I haven't seen it, saying that the UFO, or he was talking about where the UFO or the flying saucer he was working on at the S4 facility at Area 51, where that was recovered from. So let's listen to what Bob Lazar has to say.
What's the deal with the ocean? That's probably the number one question. Things are under the water. And, you know, supposedly the craft that the sport model was an archaeological recovery, and that itself was underwater. So what is the deal with the water? I mean, it's by far the biggest medium of the planet. I mean, if you want to hide people down there, almost an entire civilization down there, you could do it in the ocean, as long as you do it deep enough and away from people. Why is it the Navy? The Navy paid me. I always said everything has been the Navy instead of the Air Force. But what's the deal with the ocean? That's probably the number one question.
Right. So there you have Bob Lazar talking about the flying saucer he worked on was recovered from the ocean. So this is where the possibility comes up that flying saucer he worked on actually was the same flying saucer that was recovered in the 1942 Los Angeles air raid incident that happened in the early hours of February 25. That two craft apparently were recovered, one by the Army, one by the Navy, according to a leaked Majestic document. And so what happened to that recovered Navy flying saucer? Where did that end up? Well, I think probably it would have first gone to China Lake, then probably ended up at the S4 facility as a museum piece. Because I think S4 is really a place where flying saucers are stored after they've done whatever studies, reverse engineering were necessary for these. So that 1945 incident could well be the explanation or the source for the flying saucer Bob Lazar encountered in 1988, 43 years later. All right, so this takes me, well, let me first jump to this story here. This is Jaime Walden says that he received an intelligence briefing that UFO disclosure from Trump is a done deal, scheduled for as early as May, and the commemorative coin has already been produced. Well, Jaime Walden, as far as I was able to determine, is retired military, and he is someone that has certain sources or various reliable sources within the military who still give him informal briefings, off-the-record briefings, I guess we would call them. And so he was told Trump is about to go forward with disclosure, and I think that matches with what Trump himself has said, what others have said. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth has acknowledged that he's in the process of finding and declassifying UFO files. So that is happening. And so this could be done by as early as May. As for the commemorative coin, I'm sure this is an AI mock-up. I mean, to me, that's just speculation. I don't know if there'll be a commemorative coin made for Donald Trump's disclosure of the reality of UFOs and extraterrestrial life. That would be great if there were, but I don't think personally a commemorative coin is being planned at this stage. But certainly Trump is going to disclose soon. So here I want to finish off with a trailer for the April 18 webinar that is coming up. Let me just play that, but I'll play without the music because we do have problems of the music being copyrighted with YouTube. So this concerns the upcoming webinar on February 18, where I will be teaming up with JP and Gene Decode on what is going on for 2026 as far as the exopolitical state of the planet is concerned. We're going to be looking at power shifts on the planet. We're going to be looking at AI and extraterrestrial disclosure. And I'll be doing a presentation on those topics. JP and Gene will be joining in the panel discussion where we discuss those and related topics, and then there'll be a 1-hour Q&A. So this is a great way to kind of like get up to date with the latest exopolitical information and hear from experts, a range of experts, on what their sources are telling them, because both Gene and JP are ex-military, and they definitely have people within the military that they continue to work with and share information with. So that's going to be on April 18. You can go to my website, exopolitics.org, to get more information about that. And I want to give a special shout out to Jazz Marlin, who created this really exceptional video trailer. So thanks, Jazz, for that. And just go and register for that April 18. Well, that's it for the Week in Review this week. I hope you can join me next week, April 11, and we'll cover more developments. Thank you and aloha.
You have been listening to Exopolitics Today with Dr. Michael Salla. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Join or start a conversation in the comments. Take the time to explore the vast library of best-selling books, webinars, and podcasts by Dr. Salla. Visit exopoliticstoday.com.